Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Once again, we are going to go through multiplying by powers of 10. We've done this before. And if I had this problem and I didn't know how to multiply by powers of 10, you're telling me you want to do 3.16 times 1,000. That looks like a beating to me. When really, I'm multiplying by zeros and ones, so the numbers aren't going to change. They're all going to stay the same. If I multiply, let's see who's going to answer this. Arshia, if I multiply a number by 1, does it get bigger, does it get smaller, does it stay the same?
It stays the same.
Stays the same. If I multiply a number by 1, it stays the same. If I multiply a number by something bigger than 1, does that number get bigger, smaller, stay the same?
Bigger.
I called Ethan.
Stay the same. Anything.
By a number bigger than 1. So let's say 7 times 8. That 8's number bigger than 1. So is my product going to be greater than 7, less than 7? Greater than 7. So if I multiply by something bigger than 1, my product is bigger than what I started with. Mina, if I multiply by a number smaller than 1, is my, let's say, 7 times 0.3. Is my answer going to be less than, greater than, or equal to 7? Less. If I'm multiplying by 1, it stays the same. Multiplying by more than 1, it gets bigger. By less than 1, it gets smaller. Okay? So we need to remember that as we go through this. When we're multiplying by powers of 10, these numbers here are all greater than 1. So I have a decimal point, and I've told you when we're multiplying by powers of 10, all we're doing is moving the decimal point. I want to make 3 and 1600ths 10 times bigger, which means I want every one of these numbers to be one place value over to the left to make it bigger. So that means I need to move my decimal point one place to the right. The numbers stay the same. If I move my decimal point one place to the right, Kiran, where does it go? It's here. I want to move it one place this way. It goes between what two numbers? The 1 and the 6. So 3 and 1600ths times 10 equals 31 and 6/10. It got bigger. In order to make a number bigger, I have to move the decimal point to the right. And in order to make a number smaller, I have to move the decimal point to the left. And I'm doing that based on the number of zeros there are in my power of 10. Now we have 3 and 1600ths times 100. Not here. Brooke, what is 3 and 1600ths times 100?
That would be 316.
316. Because I had to move my decimal point 2 places to the right. Because right now the 3 is in the 1's place. I need it to be 100 times greater. So 3 1s, 300s. I have 3 1s. 300s is 100 times greater than 3 1s. Okay? Now I have 3 and 1600ths times 1,000. Elsa, what would my answer be there? I'm going to have the same numbers, right? I'm not changing numbers. Decimal point's here. How many times do I need to move it?
3 times.
3 times. Once, twice, 3 times, which means I have to add a 0 there. And so what is that number? 3,160. The numbers stay the same. I may need to add zeros at the back, but the numbers stay the same. Now, why did that crazy teacher ask about multiplying by something less than 1? Because if I multiplied, let's do 8 and 1600ths times 1/10. 8 and 1600ths times 1/10. Mason, is 1/10 less than, greater than, or equal to 1?
Less than.
Less than 1. So my product, my answer here, is going to be less than 8 and 1600ths. It's going to be less than 8 and 1600ths. Multiplying by 1/10 is just like dividing by 10. Multiplying by 100th is just like dividing by 100. Just like dividing by 100. So 8 and 1600ths times 1/10 is what, Sam?
It would be 8. No, 0. Oh my god.
Which direction does this decimal point need to move?
Right. No, left.
Left. Good. So I'm going to have 816. It's going to be in front of the 8. So it's 816 thousandths. Now if I multiply it by 100, it's still going to move left. Q, how many times is it going to move left?
2.
2. So I'm going to get. I had to add the 0 there to make it 10 times smaller. Each place value is 10 times, or each number's in a place value that's 10 times smaller. And we'll continue doing this. But some of y'all are making it way harder than it needs to be. If you're multiplying by powers of 10, 10, 100, 1,000, 1/10, 100th, 1,000th, you're just moving the decimal point. The numbers do not change. The numbers do not change order. All they do is you may need to add a 0 to the front or the back. And we'll continue doing this. Maybe I'll put an assignment on this because everybody should get 100 if I put an assignment on this. Boom, shakalaka, peace out, God bless, love you, subscribe today, save the bees. Please subscribe.